Welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We every once in a while get somebody new to hit that subscribe button and makes us
I know
happy.
we're sitting here at 27 for a couple of weeks.
Oh man. And then so anyway, smash it. Just for fun, smash it, even if you're never going to watch again, even if you happened upon this accidentally. Hey Ron, we're
But a
talking
lot more
about Boomer
people watched
culture.
this week, though, so hey,
Yeah.
that was good.
For those of you new to the cast, we're all about boomer culture. And lately, last show, we've been talking about two of this, two of that, two albums. And we thought we'd talk about a couple of actors, male and female, that were influential, we liked as we were growing up. We did a couple last week. We're going to do a couple more this week. And started off, Ron, what actor intrigued you or do you like from the boomer days, the early boomer days?
The inimitable Mr. Shaky himself, Don Knotts.
Doesn't get any better than Don Knotts.
Yeah, we're talking late 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Hey,
shoot, even into the 90s.
Would you say that Don Knotts, Val Kilmer died today? I mean, this will be on the internet forever, but today it's 2025 and Val Kilmer died today. And wouldn't you say Val Kilmer and Don Knotts are polar opposites?
Yeah, you wouldn't say Val Kilmer is a comedian, but he could be funny. I mean,
he could be. I'm your Huckleberry.
Especially when he was Doc Holliday in Tombstone. That was really funny.
Can you imagine Don Knotts as Doc Holliday?
Well, he was kind of sort of like that because he did The Shakiest Gun in the West.
Yeah.
He did that movie, and that was a takeoff on that Bob Hope movie where he's Painless the dentist.
Yeah. Well.
And, and Doc Holliday was a dentist, so.
Right.
And he ended up being, and Don Knotts was a reluctant gunfighter, so.
Right.
He was always a reluctant something.
Yeah, that was him.
Brave guy, reluctant,
That was his thing. Well, anyway, go ahead. Expand on your Don Knotts theories.
Yeah, well, I was trying to think of some people that I really liked from during that era, and as usual, I have two or three in mind, and then I got to thinking about somebody I had actually seen in person. So I was like, hey, Don Knotts, because he came to Mississippi State in I believe it was either end of 85 or early 86.
I remember that.
And it did like a little talk and a little performance and had a Q&A afterward. And it was one of those things they sponsored, and they had pretty famous people all the time, but didn't a lot of people show up. They were never really publicized for some reason. There was like maybe 150 people in there. I was sitting 20 feet away from him.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. And I remember my old roommate asking him a question. He asked him, he'd been hearing about, at the time we didn't have the internet, so it was just rumors you read about in like a magazine or something, and he'd read about how they were possibly going to do a reunion movie with the Andy Griffith Show.
Right.
And he said, I'm glad you asked that. He said, because we are just about to start filming in the next couple of weeks on Return to Mayberry.
And everybody went crazy.
Yeah, everybody was like, yeah.
Wow.
He said, he talked about how everybody that was still around
Barney.
Yeah, he was saying, like Ron Howard's back, and he said we got everybody,
Sure.
And everybody was like, yeah, so it was kind of like getting a scoop,
Well, Don Knotts, he was pretty influential as far as I don't know if he was the first of his type, but Arthur Fonzarelli, character in Happy Days, and several characters over the years, maybe the Simpsons, the entire Simpsons series, started out as Second Bananas. The Simpsons series started out on the Tracy Ullman Show. The Fonzie character was just a side character in Happy Days. Yeah. Barney was the supporting character, Andy Griffith, but who breaks out as the real star?
Yeah, I was going to say they call him breakout character. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
he was probably one of the first.
Don Knotts, and then later on Henry Winkler, and then the Simpsons on the Tracy Ullman Show.
Well, you have to go back a little bit too and throw in Maynard G. Krebs on Dobie Gillis as a breakout
he became
character,
a co-star with Dwayne Hickman on that show. And you always, anytime you're on a television show, and I guess this even happens to this day, but I think it was more common back in the day of the networks when more people saw the shows. A side character could, a fairly minor character can catch fire, and next thing you
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
yeah, you're a star is born, and
Yeah,
I
I
think
think it
that's
still
Don.
happens, on occasion.
And would you say Don Knotts was made a successful move to the movies? I would say he did.
Oh, absolutely, he did. Because his first several movies were big hits. Like, let's see, The Ghost of Mr. Chicken was his first.
Uh-huh.
That was a big hit. Uh,
Didn't win any
and
Oscars, but
great movie, by the way. Basically, he was just playing Barney, but still,
yeah. Oh, he was Barney in
great.
all of them.
Yeah, Incredible Mr. Limpet. The Reluctant Astronaut, one of my personal favorites
Oh
of
yeah,
his.
yeah, yeah.
The Shakiest Gun in the West.
They were
He did this.
silly,
He always
silly
did
movies.
thing, the Barney thing. Always, and usually wore that same suit too.
The shakiest gun in the West. He was doing Mel Brooks movies before Mel Brooks did Mel Brooks
Yeah,
movies. Just not quite as vulgar,
yeah.
but
And he was even, in a lot of, quite a few Disney movies. The Apple Dumpling Gang.
right,
That's where he kind of hooked up with Tim Conway, and they did quite a few movies together.
right, right.
They were B movies, but those movies, or you watch them today, they're hilarious.
Well,
The
and then Don
Prize Fighter,
Knotts.
which is one of my favorites, that's a great little movie.
Oh, sure.
That's a little gem, it
Well,
really is.
he came back then to TV pretty successfully as the landlord on Three's Company. He
Yeah.
wasn't the first
Ralph
person,
Furley.
right, playing that role, but
Yeah.
he did a great job. And when he did come in, and I guess that's maybe the mark of a really popular good actors. They just keep popping up. You think they're gone, and then they pop up
Yeah.
again and create a new character and Mr. Furley, he really wasn't. He had Don Knotts characteristics, but he wasn't a Barney character.
Oh,
By
no, no. His main thing was he was like, fancied himself a ladies' man, and he was a complete failure, which was completely the opposite of Don Knotts in real life, because Don Knotts, believe it or not, was known as quite the charmer and quite the ladies' man.
Well,
He was married 3 times as well, and he was very popular with the ladies.
Barney, the old Barney character, always had a girlfriend. He was always
Yeah,
one that came out with the hair messed up.
sometimes 2 or 3 he was juggling.
Yeah, yeah.
Juanita at the diner.
Oh, influential actor, and influences a lot of comedic actors to this day. Hey, I got one, and this one is really interesting. One of the most interesting characters that actors, maybe of all time, and he's barely known today, even though his influence will continue for maybe 100 years, maybe 200 years,
Yeah.
and I'm not exaggerating. Danny Thomas.
Oh
Danny
yeah, I
Thomas.
know that he's one of your favorites,
Oh,
especially, and
well,
I know why too. Yeah.
very few people, very few people remember him. If you're 35 and younger, heck, 50 and younger, a lot of people don't have good memories of Danny Thomas. I don't mean good memories. I mean they don't really remember Danny Thomas as an actor, even though his television show, the Danny Thomas Show, it started out being Make Room for Daddy,
Uh-huh.
and for Daddy, not Danny. And
Yeah.
then at the 4th year in, for whatever reason, they changed the name to the Danny Thomas Show. And I got a couple of notes here. Danny Thomas Show ran from 1953 to 1964, 11 years. And that was just record setting back in those days. And then it reran for a while. And I know it's killed the reruns. They're hilarious shows. The Danny Thomas Show is kind of it broke the mold a little because there didn't seem to be a lot of acting. Remember, Danny Thomas wasn't the cool, reserved parent that you used to saw. He was always losing his temper and yelling at his kids on the Danny Thomas Show. Leave me alone! And why are these kids bothering me? Just things of that nature. And but 11 years. But Danny Thomas was very religious, a truly devout Catholic, not somebody who says they're devout and then they just go out and do what they want to do.
Yeah.
But he founded in 1962 the 1962, the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, located in Memphis, Tennessee. It has some affiliates around the country as well. And he founded it, and it's famous for groundbreaking research in childhood diseases, but especially cancer.
Yeah.
And the you don't have to pay to go there. They collect money, and anybody that's treated there, they don't pay anything. The kids don't pay anything. You just go, and they treat you, and there's no bill at the end, and that's one less thing that those very troubled parents have to deal with. And of course, the kids don't think about those things anyway. But I've had several students over the years that were treated at St. Jude. And what a remarkable thing. And so it just overshadows anything that Danny Thomas did, even though he did become, like most creative people, his career kept changing and shifting, and he became a producer along with Sheldon Leonard and some other friends of his of some of the top TV shows ever. He was a producer of course, That Girl, Marlo Thomas's daughter's show. He was one of the producers of the Dick Van Dyke Show, the Andy Griffith Show, if you remember. Remember where Andy Griffith?
The Andy Griffith Show. He launched the Andy Griffith Show with a Andy Griffith appearance as Andy Taylor character, who was sort of a bad guy on the episode,
right?
But he was jerking Danny around in a little small town, and
on the Danny Thomas Show.
Yep, on the Danny Thomas Show,
and they spun
and you can see that on Andy Griffith reruns. This guy, producing, credit Danny Thomas,
right? Producer. And not only that, Mod Squad. He produced Mod Squad, and later on for Walter Brennan, he produced The Real McCoys, which is maybe the most underrated comedy show ever. I don't even know anybody who watches the reruns, although they're available out there. The Danny Thomas Show reruns are available out there. But you watch a Real McCoy show, and
The Real McCoys is hilarious.
It's hilarious. And another really underrated show, The Guns of Will Sonic, one of the best westerns. Unusual, a half-hour western. After the westerns had all gone to an hour, they brought out The Guns of Will Sonic, starring Walter Brennan, who is an incredibly believable gunfighter and maybe the most realistic, because you got a feeling that these gunfighters in real life didn't look anything like these 6'9" gunfighters you see on TV. Heck, their fingers wouldn't even fit past the trigger guard most of the time. But it just saw a great producer. But man, Danny Thomas, just everybody needs to do a little research into Danny Thomas. He has a great biography. It's probably not in print anymore, but I read it several years ago, and just a real interesting biography. One of 10
probably
children.
Find it in the library somewhere.
Probably. Oh yeah, you could get out there on the internet and find a copy of it. And I highly recommend it if you like showbiz biographies. It's one of the best, and I think you can get it on tape too, or at least you could at one point.
Yeah.
And boy, just an interesting guy. And I like to be funnier talking about him, but it's hard not to get real sincere talking about Danny Thomas.
Yeah, he really is. He was a great guy.
So who's your female?
My female is, how I like to tie things together, and we're doing a good job of that so far. And you're falling right in with the connections with mine here, and so I decided to follow that route. And for my female, I have the vivacious Suzanne Somers.
Oh,
who's on
Three's
Company as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Suzanne, she, when I was a kid, you saw beautiful girls, but that's the first one I ever saw that kind of made me want to be a man. Yeah, she kind of had it all for a 12-year-old boy watching that show.
Well, and she was funny, and like a lot of the people who play stupid characters, which she did. She played like the airhead character on Three's Company with John Ritter, and but she was actually very bright and an entrepreneur, and later made her big money. She was trying to make big money, which is what got her kicked off Three's Company. But later made big money. What was that thing that she used? The Thigh Master. Well
known on those late night commercials back in the 80s.
Yeah. She was the
we enjoyed
queen.
watching her on those as well.
Oh, she was the queen
She
of.
was kind of a trailblazer as far as money and stuff was.
Oh, yeah.
Because women were way underpaid according to the men.
Right.
The women on there were making like 5 times less than John Ritter,
Right.
and she was like, "Hey, that ain't cool."
Yeah. I want
And
some
she
more
kind
money.
of threw the gauntlet down, and she got fired for it. But kind of like those guys that got hammered back in the day in baseball, that made free agency
Right. Kurt Flood.
thing. Yeah, Kirk Flood and Dave McNally. They got really hammered and for doing that, and messed their careers up in a lot of ways. But they paved the way for all the people that came after them.
Sure did. Sure did. And well, we talked
There's a
about.
lot of people that could have, when they got more money, they probably should have, sent her a check.
Well, you mentioned Farrah Fawcett last week, and Suzanne
Yeah.
Somers and Farrah Fawcett both.
No, they did it to Farrah Fawcett too.
Yeah, exactly. She wanted more money, and they just kicked her to the side and said, "We'll just bring in another blonde," and they did, and it worked out for the most part. But like we said, she became known as a serious dramatic actress and was taken very well, to say serious again, very seriously. And Suzanne Somers trailblazed. Hey, once you're famous, you can key in on that fame to sponsor a product or create a product like George Foreman followed her lead with the George Foreman grill. George Foreman
a lot of people forget she had later on, 10 years later, she had another really successful little silly comedy with Patrick Duffy, Step by Step.
That's
it was
right.
on from 91 to 98. That's
sure
pretty good run.
And she did not play the airhead in that one, so
yeah, she was just the mom,
Yeah, right.
in that one. She's pretty interesting. I saw an interview with her maybe about a year or so before she died.
Right.
And she was talking about she had like a podcast, and she got her producer's idea was to invite Joyce DeWitt, who she hadn't spoken to since Three's Company,
right,
to be a guest. And she was like, "Gee, I don't know how what's going to go on with that." And he was like, "Hey, we've already kind of reached out to her. Let's give it a shot." And it was pretty interesting. I watched some of it, and and they talked about a lot of stuff, and and why they kind of resented her, and why she resented some of their stuff, and basically it boiled down to they were really actors, they were really professionals,
right?
And she wasn't so much. She didn't know anything. She kind of like, in that way, was kind of an idiot, and just didn't know that you're supposed to do what you're told, and that's why she kind of didn't.
Yeah.
She came in there and was like, "Why should I do that?
Yeah.
Why should I settle for this? That's that didn't make any sense to me."
Her husband famously was kind of a tough guy cop. She had married a cop, and he
actually was a lot in show business. He had hosted a lot of like syndicated game shows.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where he first met her.
Well, he was a tough guy, though. He was behind her, pushing her, saying, "Hey,
Alan Hamill, yeah.
Okay. I've got one we're gonna go over pretty quickly, but I think she is influential. And after I picked Danny Thomas, of course, the natural female to go along with that is his daughter Marlo Thomas, who starred in That Girl, produced by Danny.
Connection. See, we're all.
And she, hang on, I've got. I wanted to get just a couple of things in there. She also became famous for children's specials, "Free to Be You and Me," which were a series of specials, and won several Emmy Awards for various specials that she did that were on more socially conscious kinds of topics.
I remember all of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and based, and they were very pro child, so you can't argue with that. And just like her dad, who started the St. Jude's for Children's Hospital, and so she was highly recognized for that. Her TV series, That Girl, was on from 66 to 71. So basically, when Danny finished up with the Danny Thomas show, he went right into producing. And one of the shows he produced was the highly successful That Girl. They stopped production of that show because she wanted to stop. She was tired of doing the show, or thought it had gone as far as it reasonably could. But, it was very similar to the Mary Tyler Moore Show in that it was about a single woman out on her own. The difference was it seemed a little more traditional because if you remember, she had that Ted Bessel, I think, played her boyfriend who basically was in every show, and so kind of played the
He
same
was quite
characters.
the producer and director in his career after that as well.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was very successful. And so, I just want to mention Marlo Thomas because she is still to this day, she's, I believe, 87 years old.
Yeah.
And she's still associated with St. Jude's and is a market outreach director for St. Jude's Hospital. And around here, we live, of course, in the shadow of Memphis. And you see her occasionally show up even now on commercials for St. Jude, and famously married Phil Donahue. So she's just tied all into different trends in television and award-winning actress and producer.
Now that show, not the best show. It doesn't hold up.
That girl?
That girl.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll tell you what does hold up. That still, you can go back and watch it and watch the little intro things before the music comes on. Those are great.
Right.
Who is that? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, that girl. The camera goes in on her and, and then the music kicks in. Those are great. Those are all very original and really funny and clever. And that's great. But the show just kind of, like most 60s sitcoms are when you go back and watch them.
Like her dad, she carried the show. She had a strong personality. She carried the show just with her personality. It was fun watching it just to watch her reaction.
They had some good side actors. Bernie Kopell was on that show who, God, he was a great side character his whole career. Love Boat, Maxwell Smart.
Yep. Oh, couldn't beat it. You got a song of the week? We need to wrap this up.
I have a song of the week. And
what is it?
I was inspired by Barney Fife with his famous, accidental gunshots. I had to pick Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down by Cher in 1966, written by her then husband, Sonny Bono.
I cannot believe
it was actually number 2 on the charts, believe it or not. I had no idea it was that high.
Yep. I don't know if Sonny and Cher, I don't think they're underrated, but that's an interesting song. And it's interesting to go back and visit a few of particularly the Sonny and Cher Day songs, because they do have some interesting music. And it's
Sonny Bono, without a doubt. He really did. He has style, what he wrote. You can tell in his songs.
Well, what I'm wondering is, were Sonny Bono and Cher, were they the two worst singers ever to be paired together? Because I think they probably are.
I don't know. There's been a lot of bad ones. I'm sure you can find somebody way worse today.
Sonny could barely sing, and come on, Cher is frightening sometimes. Holy night. Paul Schaefer made fun of her for that for years. That was great. But hey, worth visiting just for the entertainment value, just for the comments on YouTube. If you look up
but give us hell, Cher. Go right ahead. I dare you.
Well, hey, look, gotta say, Bang Bang really doesn't reflect Barney, because Barney only had one bullet, but
it was just bang.
Yeah, I don't know if there's.
But I was trying to think of something that was related to Barney and his gun.
Yeah, oh sure, that'll work. Hey, Ron, we wrapped it up again talking about Hollywood, and we may do this again next week. Pick out a couple of actors and actresses that we like. We'll think about it, give it some thought, mull it over, and if we come up with a new idea, we'll come up with a new idea. What do you think?
I'm going to end the show this week.
Okay.
Oh, my Barney, had a jail but couldn't lock it. Had one bullet for his pistol, had to keep it in his pocket.